Commission, we're going to start with our annual meeting after we do roll call. Jim Saunders.
Here.
Sean Jones. Here. Paul Ruge. Here. Paul Reeder. Here. Bill Crowley. Here. And I'm here, obviously. Our first item is at the meeting, we have to conduct an election of the chair and vice chair for the coming year. The nominations will be from the floor. I'll take nominations for chair from the committee.
I nominate Joe Hickman for chair of the Planning Commission. I'll second that.
Okay. Any other nominees? Since there are no other nominees, and there's only one, and it's been seconded, the motion carries. Vice chair, nominations for vice chair for 2024.
I'll nominate Paul Roge as vice chair.
I second.
I second that. Any other nominations? Hearing none, that passes too. That closes our annual meeting, I think. And now we have our regular meeting. We've done the roll call. We have two sets of minutes, one from November 2nd and one from December 7th. I hope you've had a chance to look at them, if there are any additions or corrections. If not, I'll entertain a motion for each individually, probably.
I move that we approve the November meeting as it was presented to us.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I move that December meeting that was presented to us, that we accept.
Got a motion, a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Our first item today is the application for the Still Pond Neck LLC extension of a major site plan approval. Is that applicant here or the staff? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Staff make a report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. 25809A Still Pond Neck LLC is requesting a 12-month extension of its site plan approval for the installation of a utility-scale solar energy system on an 85-acre farm, which is owned by Raymond and Joyce Stolfus. The property's address is 26001 Still Pond Neck Road in 3rd Election District. According to public process, Planning Commission shall review and approve major site plans. Plans shall expire after 12 months unless otherwise extended. When the applicant can show that the project is in good process of obtaining permits from a state, local, or federal agency, that these permits have been pursued diligently, the Planning Commission shall grant a 12-month extension. A site plan may receive more than one extension. A special exception for installation of the applicant by the applicant of utility-scale solar energy system agricultural zoning district was approved by the Board of Appeals on October 7, 2022. And a final site plan was approved by the Planning Commission at its meeting on January 5th, 2023, contingent upon obtaining all state and federal permits, coordination of the forest conservation easement and agreement, and submission and approval of sureties for landscape maintenance and bond-related equipments for decommissioning. Necessary change in the system size to address the cost estimate for interconnection with Delmarva and securing the required third-party decommissioning plan and bond have delayed the start of construction. There's been a reduction in the number of panels due to the interconnection requirements for Delmarva, changing from an estimated 2,376 to 1,300 as proposed. That's the only change. The dimensions of the fence enclosure will not change. The previously approved stormwater management, forest stand, delineation, landscaping plans would remain the same. The applicant made a request for extension of the special exception, and on September 5th, 2023, the Board of Appeals granted an 18-month extension from the signature date of the extension approval. Staff does recommend approval of this 12-month extension of site plan, approval for installation of this system, contingent upon the same as previously established, obtaining all state and federal permits, recordation of the forest conservation easement agreement, and submission and approval of sureties for landscape maintenance and bond-related requirements for decommissioning. And we've been engaged with the applicant on each of these last components for the condition.
Thank you, Mark. Any correspondence?
No correspondences.
Okay. Is the applicant or their representatives here? Step forward, please. Can you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Josh Spencer, 8419 Percheron Pass, San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, I work with Pivot Energy as a project manager.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell us about this project?
Yes, so really the delay last year was really caused by our coordination with Delmarva Power and Light, DPL. And so we basically got a pretty large cost estimate for doing substation upgrades at that 1 megawatt size. So we had to coordinate with them, scale back on the size, and we were eventually able to agree on a size that they were able to substantially reduce those costs to make the project actually profitable for us. And so we're moving forward with that. We're just waiting on an invoice from them. We do have the actual amount of the interconnection cost, which is within the budget basically to keep the project profitable at that size. So here in the next 1 to 2 months, we should be able to pay that invoice with them, get them started on their upgrades, and then be able to start construction here probably in the summer as we wrap up our site plan and get our building permit, here in the probably first quarter, and then building permit probably early, Q2 of 2024 would be the plan.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for the applicant or staff?
I got a couple.
Sure, go ahead.
One with the amount of panels and the electricity they would provide. Now, Delmarva says it can only take a certain amount without a major upgrade. Now, would this then would have to happen anyway? You may not be able to answer it, but does this mean that Delmarva at that, wherever that is going into, is at capacity and therefore wouldn't allow any more to happen? You know what I mean? Let's say another solar panel farm wanted to, a mile down the road wanted to put in another 1,000 solar panels. They wouldn't be able to do it all without that upgrade then.
So I wouldn't be able to speak to the exact, extent of upgrades, but most likely if, another solar facility did come in on that same, substation grid, they would probably have to pay for improvements.
This would be in the specific substation, not,
Yeah, just for the specific substation that we're tying into.
okay. And the panels that you took out, I mean, that's roughly 50% of the size. but
Almost,
you didn't-
yes.
You didn't reduce the footprint of the thing. You just, how are you gonna, are you taking them off one end, or are you gonna do it like every other
So we
panel?
just reduced the density essentially of them, so we just spaced them out. And so
Just
on
gonna
the,
space
on the
them out.
updated space, on this updated site plan, they're just spaced out, so they're, still, filling the whole site. It's not really, one half of the site has a bunch of panels and then it's empty. It's just, they're more spaced out within that existing or proposed fence line.
So that way, once the substation's upgraded, then you can fill in the spaces.
No, no. We would have to come back for, any changes or anything like that, but, if they were going to increase, capacity or something like that, and we were to tie in, that would still be an additional cost and coordination we would have to go through with them. But yeah, there's no plans to change the size of the system once it's in place.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The electric power that's generated, so, with the solar panels, is that being sold back to the community or to Delmarva? How is that going to work?
So essentially, that electricity that's generated goes back onto that grid system. And then, part of the benefit to the community is the LMI component of the project as well. So we have to give a certain amount of credits on people's bills that are low to moderate income within the community. And so that's part of how we, give back essentially to the community with the system.
So Delmarva would be issuing those credits to its subscribers?
Yeah, so we actually have to go out and recruit those subscribers, but then we would basically, on their Delmarva Power and Light bills, they would get a reduction to their bill.
Okay, thank you.
Any else?
You're saying that it's only gonna go to low to moderate income people that would
For
not
the bill-
benefit the entire county?
No, just for the bill credits, we have a certain amount of subscribers that we're obligated to as part of the state program to provide those bill credits.
Does anyone in the public want to testify or make comments? Hearing not. Excuse me, step forward, please. You can stay if you want, just first step. Would you raise your right hand, state your name and address for the record?
John Leisinger, 10948 Chesterville Road, Kennedyville.
Okay.
My question is, since the number of panels is being decreased by half, but this area they're going to cover is not going to decrease, why is it not appropriate to keep the density the same and leave the other as green space? Leave the other 50% as green space? Wouldn't that be to the benefit of the community more so than spreading them in a less dense pattern and covering the full acreage?
I can't answer, don't know what the site, what a description of the site plan will look like, but maybe you can elucidate.
Yeah, so for the purpose of, you know, extending the site plan approval and keeping everything to the same intent, we wanted to keep everything the same and then just reduce that density, and spread everything out. If we were to push them kind of into one area, it would still just be, you know, an emptier kind of field area just within a fence line. Because we don't want to go back on our obligation to our landowner of how many acres, you know, we're leasing from them. And that as far as part of our like legal due diligence, we have to fence in that whole leased area, essentially, because we're liable for anything that happens on that leased land. So I really don't think there would be much of an aesthetic benefit from that, you know, pushing everything kind of more to one side versus just, you know, having everything more spread out. And it's a little bit easier for us too if it's more spread out for maintenance, and, you know, mowing, or, you know, as part of our, you know, land stewardship practices on some sites, we do like sheep grazing or things like that to kind of have some more natural things. So it would still have, you know, a good area for them to spread out and be able to graze.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. The question I have is, what benefit do King County get out of this? As far as pay or something like that?
So as part of our overall, you know, project budget, we do allocate some money to different organizations. So we haven't fully allocated that, but as far as Q1 2024, we are planning to make about $20,000 of donations to organizations that do work within Kent County. We've looked at Land Conservancy. We've looked at, I'm trying to remember, there's another organization that we were looking into as well, but we haven't finalized that amount. And then also the bill credits, they go to some low and moderate income families and their power bills. That's the other benefit to Kent County as well.
But you have a list of the low-income people that this POW goes to, right?
Yes, so we have an organization within our organization called Sun Central, and they essentially go out and seek those, you know, low to moderate income individuals and families, and then they basically recruit them and try to get them to sign up for that and basically get that certain amount of allocated bills, you know, required by the state program.
You haven't answered my question that I asked was, what X amount of dollars revenue did King County get out of this project? That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so I think part of that would come as tax revenue as well from the upgraded, you know, tax value based on the solar facility on the site. I don't know the exact dollar amount for that additional tax value, but that would be part of the additional revenue that would come into the county as well.
Okay, I appreciate it if you meet with us again, that you could give us that number.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything else you'd like to do summarize, sir? Are you comfortable?
No, I think that's good. Just want to say we tried to just keep everything, you know, as intact as from the original approval as possible, and just tried to adjust the density of the panels just to keep everything, keep our landscape buffer all in the same state that it was.
Thank you. Commission, any thoughts, comments, ready, or?
I think it's important to recognize that no land is changing hands here, that the Stolzfuses are continuing to own the property, that this is a lease arrangement. I assume a 30-year lease.
It's a 20-year lease with 2
20-year lease,
10-year
okay.
possible extensions, so up to 40 years.
Okay. So it's not as if you're buying the land and we're approving a project. The owner has considerable say as to what gets done on the property and how it gets done, correct?
Correct, and we pride ourselves as a company that we take into account owners' wishes on their property as well. So it's not a thing where we get a contract in hand and we try to force people into doing things. We're definitely a very landowner-friendly company.
Thank you.
Okay, we're looking to they've asked for an extension of 1 year with the same, and staff recommends an extension of 1 year with the same conditions as their initial approval.
I'll make a motion that we grant a 12-month extension to 25809A Still Pond Neck LLC for the approval of the installation of a utility-scale solar system on an 85-acre farm owned by Raymond and Joyce Stolfus. The property is located at 26001 Still Pond Neck Road in the 3rd Election District, contingent upon obtaining all state and federal permits, recordation of the forest conservation easement and agreement, and submission and approval of sureties for landscape maintenance and bond-related requirements for decommissioning.
We have a motion, a second?
Second.
I got a second, any discussion? I'll call the vote, yea or nay. Jim Saunders?
I agree.
Okay, Sean Jones?
Yes.
Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Paul Reeder?
Aye.
Bill Crowding?
Yes.
And I'll vote with the affirmative. So you have your extension, and hope you get straight with Delmarva.
Thank you for your time.
Our next application is Brickyard Land Holdings, Gillespie Precast, and this is a concept plan for a major site plan at 101 Brickyard Road, Chestertown, industrial critical area. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. As stated, Brickyard Landing Holdings LLC is requesting concept site plan review for the expansion of the Gillespie Precast LLC of an office building by constructing a 2-story, 7,296 square foot addition to the rear of the existing structure itself. Located at 101 Brickyard Road, the precast facility operates across 3 adjacent parcels, those being 26, 161, and 491, under ownership and maintenance of Brickyard Land Holdings LLC. The existing office building is on parcel 161, which is dual zone between industrial and industrial critical area. Proposed building addition and supporting parking are to be entirely within industrial zoning district, with a combined area of 76.55 acres for the 3 parcels themselves. 49.606 acres, approximately 65%, are in the critical area. As more than 50% of the project site is within the critical area, staff has determined the proposed activity is exempt from the forest conservation requirement per Article 6, Section 8.2.10. In regards to relevant issues, the staff has the following comments. Proposed use is permitted. Building plans for the front, side, and rear elevations of all exterior walls for the proposed office building expansion have been submitted for review. Proposed office building expansion meets minimum setback requirements and height limitations. The proposed project to support use to the overall industrial use, and a certified engineer's report on the performance standards would not be required. Preliminary sediment and erosion control and stormwater management plans are required for preliminary review, and Maryland's Environmental Resource and Land Information Network indicates there are no threatened or endangered species in the vicinity of the proposed activity. Adequate spacing, in regards to the industrial design standards, adequate spacing is provided to ensure on-site circulation for the proposed use. In 2018, a landscape plan was approved and implemented on the road frontage of parcel 161 for an addition to the existing concrete production building. Therefore, no additional screening is required. No exterior lighting is shown on submitted site plans, and lighting details will be required for the preliminary site plan approval. Regarding site plan review, would note that comprehensive plan, one of their strategies is to retain and promote existing businesses and assist in their growth. And our final comments in regards to the standards by which a concept site plan is assessed. We have these following comments. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan as previously stated. The proposal conforms with provisions, applicable rules, and regulations. Areas for vehicular flow appear to be adequate for the use proposed. Demand of public services and infrastructure are reasonable. Standard waste from the office is discharged in Chestertown sewage system. A preliminary soil and erosion control and stormwater management plans are required for preliminary site plan review, and a citizen petition plan is required. The sending of letters would be sufficient for that purpose. Therefore, staff recommends, in order to receive preliminary site plan review, the applicant must address and submit the following outstanding items, those being the citizen participation plan report, the sediment and erosion control and stormwater management plans as preliminaries, and details on signs and lighting. Have not received any correspondence on this.
Thank you. Is the applicant or representative here wish to speak to this? Step forward, please. Raise your right hand. This is the testimony you're about to give, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Gillespie, 102 Brickyard Road.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. What can you tell us about it that Mark hasn't, or?
It's pretty much straightforward. Just like Mark said, we're adding an expansion to our sales office at the Brickyard Road address. Architecture will be about the same as the existing office, so nothing's changing there. That's about it.
Good. Questions or for the applicant or about the site plan? And this is concept, we're just offering advice at this point, or opinions at this point.
What does a citizen participation report entail?
We have not done that yet. We will do that by the time we meet next time.
And can you explain what that will require?
Mark, maybe you should go ahead.
Yeah, so basically it's notification of those that be most immediately affected.
Can you talk to the mic?
Yeah, thank you. A citizen participation plan is one in which the applicant would reach out to neighbors, explaining what's to be done and allowing for comment to come back. They would then report a summary of those comments to this commission.
Are there timeframe requirements for receiving comments and reporting to the commission?
So it would be required for the preliminary site plan review. That's what we're proposing. I'm not sure if there's a standard in terms of sending a letter and allowing so much time for a response. Rather than, sometimes meetings are organized. In this case, a letter would be sufficient because they've undergone recent upgrades to that site, and a lot of the neighbors are already familiar with some of the activities.
Just out of
Yes.
neighbors would be adjacent property owners only?
Primarily adjacent property owners.
I didn't know the extent of the.
Yeah.
Anyone got questions or comments about the site plan itself?
The site plan shows extra parking. How many, are you going to add employees at that location?
We will. Right now, the existing office is full, and the existing parking lot is overflowing.
In that building there?
Yes.
In the existing
In
building?
the existing building. So when we add this new addition, we will definitely need the new parking, the additional parking. So yes, new hires will be expected in this new addition.
Any thoughts to EV charging stations anywhere in there?
We did talk about that, but that probably will not be at this
Might
time.
even need it for your trucks.
At some point, yes.
Big battery.
Yeah, I think overall the plan looks good. I do appreciate your berm out there for the other project.
Maybe accidental.
Well,
We're still working through that. If there are no other comments, I would like to request a combined preliminary and final at the next meeting, if that's acceptable.
thoughts? First off, Mark, do you have any problem with that? Combining preliminary and final?
No.
Okay. This is it. I think, we have this off, and I don't see a problem with it, but make sure we don't have too many
Okay,
pending things that should be mostly done. That's
Yep.
which citizens plan and final thing, yeah. That's my opinion, is if the stuff is there, I hate to do that preliminary and final when we have so many conditions out there that we haven't even gotten to.
I might add, there was some discussion at the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. There was some discussion at the
General
Technical
there.
Advisory Committee meeting in regards to the addition. And while it's under 5,000 square feet in terms of the footprint, it's over 7,000 gross floor area, but the footprint would be 5,000, less than 5,000 square feet. But I think the engineers are going to look at stormwater management, sort of combining that, so making sure that that was completed and approved prior to this next meeting
understood, yep.
would be a condition.
Thank you. All right, anyone else's opinion on combining if?
I don't like doing it, but if it's, especially unless it's all ready to go for final, I'm not in favor of doing it, with all these contingencies, like you say. You're gonna have at least 30 days to get it ready anyhow, so.
Looks like it's gonna be attractive, so. We won't be able to see it now with the berm, but.
Right, right.
All right, any other thoughts? We'll let you,
Well,
go ahead.
I would agree with everybody else here. I too would be a little hesitant, but I think we would, I don't think we need to give them permission or state a yea or nay at this point. I really, we got to see what you're going to have. We'll leave it up to Mark and leave it up to the office to make sure that you've got everything in place.
Understood.
Without, if we say yes here, that kind of puts things in stone. I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
I think we would need to have you get everything done that needs to be done prior to it, the next meeting, or prior to when you want to come in.
And then the office
That would
can
be up to Mr. Mackey at that point to make sure that we have everything in place, and then maybe we can entertain it
Okay.
at that point.
I'm going to agree with Paul and Bill.
Bill, go ahead.
Chair, if I might, our purpose is we're asking applicants to come and ask you about the combination so that we're not making assumptions and having a combined item appear before you, and then you're sort of in a corner and,
Thank
can't
you.
make that choice. So that's the goal of doing this. So if I hear it correctly, for someone, in this case, you're basically saying that if you have everything completed and a final can be approved, that they could submit for the combined. Is that, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it, hope you get your citizens plan done and everything done on time.
Okay, thank you.
Before we review our next application, I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session for some legal advice. There's a second, I'll call for the vote. Jim Saunders, yes or no?
It's okay with me.
Okay, Sean,
Yes.
Paul, Paula,
Aye.
and I'll vote with the affirmative. The procedure now is what you, well, so I'll ask first legal advice, what do we do then?
We just need to complete this, which we can do in the session, but we're gonna go next door, I
We're
think.
going to adjourn out of the room. I'm going to turn off all of the mics, so we're not picked up, but we're not going to stop the transmission, because otherwise we would not be able to.
mics are on.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you. We're back in, out of closed session. We had closed session for legal advice. No decisions or determinations were made. It was just advice of our counsel. And you, Ms. McGann, you want to say anything about just?
Just the legal issues discussed were the Kent County Circuit Court's opinion that involved the nonconforming use determinations for the American Legion property, now the Minner East Dream Alliance property. And that Circuit Court decision was an affirmance and reversal in part of the Kent County Board of Appeals decision, which was a 24-page decision. So it gave an opportunity for the Planning Commission to, we gave an opportunity for the Planning Commission to ask questions about that, as well as Mr. Mackey's determination.
Thank you, Cindy. Our next item we have in our packet was presented to the public, the decision and determination of the Mite Center major site plan application for Minner East Dream Alliance. That was the Planning Commission asked for our zoning administrator, or Bill Mackey, to make those determinations, and they're in our packet. Now we'll move on to the site plan.
Did you want to let Mr. Mackey say something?
Yeah, you go, if you have comments. I'm sorry, Bill. Sorry, I didn't
It's
mean-
fine. I just wanted to note that at your last meeting, you did request a decision and termination on the uses. That item is in your packet to be presented to you for your receipt. The determination is dated December 29th, although the packet, we had technical difficulties, was not available to the public till December 30th. I note that because any decision or determination has a 30-day appeal period, so anyone in the public who would like to appeal this decision would have till January 31st to file that decision. In general, just to give an overview, it's a number of pages. It's my determination the proposal is not an enlargement of the existing legal nonconforming use, because each one of the proposed improvements is a use that is permitted by right or by special exception in the CAR zoning. So those uses are separate from the legal nonconforming use. And I will go through each one of the areas on the site plan and describe it and note how it's related to an existing use. The existing building is not part of that proposal and is noted. And then there's information for the public if they wish to file an appeal. Any decision that I make is appealable to our Kent County Board of Appeals. And that would be, if there were to be an appeal, that's what the body that would receive it. So,
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now our next item is Minner East Dream Alliance Site Plan Review, Preliminary and Final. And Carly, you got this? Thank you.
Minner East Dream Alliance, MDA, is requesting preliminary and final site plan review of a proposed plan that will function as their master plan for projects on the site and would be implemented over time as funding allows. If required, building permits would be issued for individual projects. MDA is proposing site improvements, including the creation of a sacred place sitting area, a labyrinth living shoreline, reconfigured garden with added greenhouse and garden storage garage, wooden platform for outdoor classroom or performance, and reconfigured entrance and parking area. The site plan, in this case, must be considered with respect to Judge Murphy's order concerning the legal non-conforming use of the property and as to the permitted uses currently allowed within the critical area residential district. And staff would note that the Planning Commission has the authority to make the determination if preliminary and final approval may be granted at the same meeting. And I'm going to go directly to the staff for comments related to site plan review. The proposal is consistent with strategies and goals of the comprehensive plan. The property is served by private well and septic. The applicant is working with the health department to establish a new septic area. If the health, and there's still continuing discussion with where that septic reserve area would be, what the capacity needs to be, and that is an ongoing conversation. The redesign of the parking lot is intended to improve traffic patterns and safety of pedestrians within the site. Stormwater management and erosion sediment control plans will be reviewed with individual projects as applicable. The applicant has designed the project with the goal to complement the neighborhood and to enhance habitat and improve water quality. Existing vegetation will not be removed. The applicant has conducted design charrettes, which are open to the public. As located on the site plan, the greenhouse would require a variance. Greenhouses are permitted in the critical area residential district, but require a 200-foot setback from all property lines. Changes to the location would require an amendment to the site plan, if they choose not to go for the variance or if the variance is denied. As located on the site plan, the garden storage and garage would require a special exception, as it is an accessory structure in the front yard of a waterfront parcel. And again, should the current site plan be approved, if changes then were necessary afterwards, then that would require an amendment to the site plan. And the applicant has included a new note concerning the existing camping area. It is now noted as a primitive campground and picnic area with tent camping only by private groups. And the land use key has been updated for consistency with that. As far as I am aware, there has been no correspondence, and I can answer any questions, or you can hear from the applicant.
Anybody have questions for staff before we hear from the applicant? Thank you. Is the applicant or representatives here available? Please step forward. Miles, you want to raise your right hand? Is the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name and address for the record.
Miles Barnard, with South Fork Studio Landscape Architecture, 10810 Cliff Road, Chestertown.
Thanks, Mitch.
Mitchell Mao, Chestertown, attorney.
Thank you. What can you tell us about the request here for the site plan review?
I don't think that we have too much new information to share. I mean, it's essentially the same plan that we had submitted before with the same use designations that staff has talked about and made a determination on. We've adjusted a couple labels, I think, to clarify some questions that came up in the last meeting about the campground. That was probably the biggest change that we made to the site plan. And again, the health department there were some comments on the previous TAC minutes about gaining health department approval, and I think we're made some good progress on that. I just think the health department will weigh in once there's an actual building permit filed for anything on site before they decide to give any kind of official approval, which I think makes sense to us. So I don't think I have much more to add other than that. And we are hoping to get a preliminary and final today if possible.
Mitch, anything you want?
Well, I think staff has covered everything. And with the findings that have been made, I think that we have met all the requirements for the approval. We understand that there are a couple of issues, special exception for the structure in the front yard, setback variance may be required. If those things are accomplished, we feel that preliminary and final approval contingent upon those things being addressed either by variance and or special exception or a revised site plan, that would serve the purposes of full review by you all, as well as being able to allow the applicant to proceed with its plans. It's with the decision that have been made, I think we're entitled to that approval.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, questions for the applicant or comments?
No, I think you're lacking a lot for final approval on it. Matter of fact, think it lacks some for preliminary. I mean, we haven't seen anything on stormwater management, sediment erosion control. We don't know how big the greenhouse is or the proposed garages as far as that goes. If they've got a new entrance permit, what the sign's gonna look like and stuff like that. You know, that's just general stuff we approve or review under any site plan that comes before us. And, you know, I think that once some of that's done and addressed, you know, you could probably move on from there. That's my opinion. You know, you got variances you need. Living shoreline, we haven't heard anything back on that, you know, and generally you get your permit from the state and then come back to us for a building permit or whatever. That's just my feelings on it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment?
Well, I'm concerned about not having any clear answers about septic requirements. The activities plan is pretty ambitious in terms of what they would like to do with the kids and other people who may use the facility. And it strikes me that if all of those objectives were achieved, that would place a significant burden on the existing septic system. And we haven't really heard from the health department in any definitive way as to their evaluation of what would be required to support activities at the level suggested in the report. So I would like to hear more.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask, we had those questions at concept too, and I don't know, where are we? I guess I don't know where, is the health department, are they doing any decision now, or they're waiting to find out if they get approved? I mean, where are we with that?
So,
Procedurally, I
yeah,
guess.
so, back before I've kind of getting dribs and drabs of information as I start, bump into people accidentally, and somebody says, oh yeah, we worked on that. So before I was involved, there was actually, some work done by DMS and Buck Nickerson on working to establish a new SRA, which was a mound system, and it was designed. I mean, there are drawings for it. I think for some reason it just was never signed by the health department. But at that time, that whole design was based on a flow, per day flow rate. And that was one of the pieces of information that Brennan Green, with MDE, who's been serving as the acting director, although I think Erica now is the acting director. That was, he kept saying, well, we need to know what your flow rate is before we can even kind of discuss it. So my last correspondence to the health department was, here's the information, here's the system that was designed based on this flow rate. So this is the flow rate that, we're giving you everything that you're asking for. And, there's been generally no response from them. I think that planning and zoning staff had wanted the health department to give some sort of, sign off on the master plan, and they're saying that we're not going to sign anything. This is Brennan Green saying this with MDE. We're not going to sign anything unless it's an actual building permit. And I guess at that point that they would then make a determination on whether we needed to upgrade, replace, not replace our septic system. I mean, and I don't, that does make some sense to me, that, they sign off on building permits, not master plans, but that's where things stand. So I think quite a bit of work has been done on our end.
What about the living shoreline? Where is that with the state?
So there's been no permit filed, there's been no MDE permit filed yet for that project. I think at this point, they're still working to fund that project. And I know Kim is here, I'm sure she can answer more questions about it if we need more detail.
Other questions or comments for the applicant?
I got one question, actually. Based on, based on the health department with the septic system, and it's a standoff where they have made a decision of what type of septic system they are putting in? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I think there's probably some of it is just just related to a little bit of disarray, I'll say, that the health department has gone through. And that something was started, a process was started to come up with a design for a new septic system, and then there were some changes in the director at the health department. Probably other things happened, people got distracted, and the ball got dropped at some point along the line, and now we're back, trying to do some things, and rightly so, people are asking about the septic system, and probably there's, been some lost information. Nobody knows what was done beforehand, and we're all sort of piecing it back together now. So, and I don't think there's any, I don't think Menary's Dream Alliance is opposed to the idea of a new septic system if that is ultimately what's required by somebody. Nobody's trying to get around that. I think we're just trying to, so it's a unique, we're in a little bit of a unique situation. I mean, everything's unique about this project. We have the whole non-conforming use situation and, in a residential area, and we're really just, this is a master plan. We're trying to get, some sort of approval to be able to move ahead with the idea, the concept of doing what we want to do. And of course, we're going to come back for building permits and provide additional detail and drawings and do whatever we have to do, whether it's administrative special exceptions or variances or just a standard building permit for the different things we want to do, I think. But we want to also have some level of confidence that we will, if we satisfy all of those technical requirements, that we can invest the money in architects and engineers and landscape architects to move forward and design those things. And I'm not quite sure how we do that.
Based on the health department, based on the system that got to be put in the state of Maryland today is the bad system. That's the best system of why would the health department or anybody else, it wouldn't have passed if they don't put the bat system in. That's the bottom line. You can't put a septic system in with a dry well. You can't put a septic system in now in the state of Maryland with a mountain and stuff. It's got to be the bat system. And that seems like it's not even our problem. Any inspector you go, you need the bat system. That's the best that Maryland offer. Mm-hmm. And that's what you gotta go with, the bat system.
Well, you're right, they gotta go with whatever the health, they control that from day one, wherever you are, the state has laws, but they'll make it clear what you need when that gets together, that's the problem, we're not there yet, it doesn't seem. Any other questions? Go ahead.
That's my concern here. I mean, I see in the preliminary reports that the health department issued, but that they had originally proposed a double mound system for the septic. As I understand it, that takes up a lot of room. Mound systems I'm familiar with take up a lot of room. If that required a change to these plans.
We actually show the mound, we actually show the septic area on the drawing, on the proposed drawing, so we've stayed away from that.
If that should have to change, based on the health department's final determination as to what's required to support the uses of the property, how does that affect your plan?
It's hard to comment on without knowing what potential change might be. I mean, if it has to get bigger, there's room there to do that if something else has to happen.
There would also be an amended site plan submitted as well. I mean, you're talking about approvals from the health department that are going to happen before there's anything that's done. It's just that we're asking that leave it up to the health department to make those approvals either as as this project proceeds in phases, or there's an agreement on what type of system to put in. And if that type of system is not the type or the area that's shown on the site plan that where it's under consideration, we'll have to do a new site plan and submit that amended site plan.
Well, then aren't we putting the cart before the horse?
No, because we don't know what's going on with the health department. The health department won't sign off on it now because they want to know what the uses are going to be. They won't sign it, so we can't get them to sign a plat. And we can't do anything until it's signed. It's either going to be the plat that's approved or the individual portions of the project as they're approved. The health department's going to be in charge.
You can't get, we can't get a building permit without the health department signing off on anything. So it seems like that's what the health department does, is they're the ones that determine what our septic requirements are and will be, not necessarily the planning commission.
And all the things that are in this project are permitted uses, either under the non-conforming use or permitted uses as right because of the zoning, except for possibility of a special exception and a variance.
Well, does the health department know that, though? I mean, that decision was just made.
Do they know what?
That the uses now, you had said they need to know the uses. Well, the uses have been determined by the zoning administrator. Does the health, have they been presented?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They haven't appeared at a single TAC meeting yet.
Well, you said in your cover letter there that you plan on putting in the Sacred Place and the Labyrinth right away.
Yep.
What about the rest of the improvements? I mean, are we looking at the parking lot within a year, 2 years, 3 years? We don't know when that'll be, or the greenhouse and the office or garage. When do you foresee those happening? Why wouldn't this be in phases? If that's, I mean, you want us to give final approval on a parking lot out here that by the time you may be building that, the rules and regulations could significantly change, maybe for the good, maybe make it tougher. I can't believe any of them would ever get any easier, but I mean, we don't know what's coming down the road, and I mean, you could come in here with a preliminary plan with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or however you want to do it. But I think it's a stretch to ask for a preliminary and final on something that we don't have any idea when it is. We just went through one where a year's going by, and you have to come back before us again. I don't know what you accomplish by getting it all right now myself, but as I said, I don't think we've got near enough here to even get preliminary myself.
Miles, you mentioned someone else may want to speak to the application from.
Well, I was just saying, if there were questions,
Oh, okay.
you had specific
That's
questions
fine.
about the living
I just make sure everyone's heard on from your side. Okay, let's see what got questions here. Is there anyone in the public who wants to speak to this? If they have they signed up to the, is there a sign up, Mark, is there a sign up sheet? You want to stay there? You can, or just step back maybe to the side. You can keep it, just if I don't have, I mean, if we have one person, that's fine. Can you raise your right hand? Is the testimony you're about to give truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And your name and address, please.
Joshua Connor, 26885 Mallard Road, Chestertown.
Thanks.
Position.
Go ahead.
Thank you for inviting us to be here today. First of all, just initial comment. It sounds to me like what the documentation just heard represents a very loosely knit organization. There seems to be no knowledge as to what's going on from one end to the other. That kind of disturbs me, for starters. Secondly, going along with what you started here, the conversation about the sequence of this project, I've been on the Healthcare Commission, state of Maryland, for 8 years, and it seems to me my a priori argument would be they don't have funding. That's why they're not lining up their ducks in a row yet. And we would never allow a project to start without proving simple funding for your project you propose. And I think they're going along hoping they get funding. And to speak to what he also said too, what's the end point? Are they going to carry on this project for 20 years? If they can't fulfill a certain phase of their project in a given time limit, the whole rest of the project should be terminated. It's not fair to the community to be subject to this going on. I also am confused about CAR Residential, which is my house, I guess, too. Yet this organization got $300,000 in federal COVID money. Does that mean they're a business? I think someone needs to take a look in their books and see what's going on. Because if they're a business, then there's a lot more different regulations going on. It's not a commercial property. And I disagree with Mr. Mackey about that this is not an extension of the non-conforming use. I think it's a blatant violation of the extension of non-conforming use. And they've already proven they cannot live up to their obligation to the permit they were given last summer for a party. This platform they want to use, one person's theater is another person's rock band, community theater versus loud rock band, what they had. The police came out, they lowered the volume. As soon as the police left, they raised the volume. It was a very punitive act against the community.
Let's, keep it on the issue
Okay.
of the site plan, please.
Well, that's the point. It's a gross extension of the non-conforming use that Judge Murphy had put in documentation. But I'd like to know, is this a residential area or is it a business? Why'd they get all this COVID money? I'd like to know what the Kent County Comprehensive Plan is, because I was told this fits into the Kent County Comprehensive Plan. What is the plan? And how does it fit in? In the fine print in their narrative, they speak to this being an extension for recreation in Kent County, yet our parks are being underutilized right now as it is, and we have a brand-new Y. I don't know why they need to fit in recreation. I did see in one of the plans, the blueprints, it said exit to playing field. According to Judge Murphy, there's no permit for a playing field. My last concern is these tents, are these permanent structures? Are we going to have a tent city in Kent County? I know when the American Legion was there, they had Boy Scouts camping. Okay? But I'm a little concerned about the terminology of tenting. Is that a permanent structure which will be visible from the road? I think there should be limitations on tent. They should not be permanent structures. They should be occasional camping if you want, but not. I think there needs to be more explicit language. I think you already spoke to that. Some more detailed information. And from what I heard just now, the representative doesn't quite know what's going on. And that bothers me. That scares me. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Mark?
The number of names, I'm not sure who may wish to speak. Do you want
Just read the next name on the list.
There's Vanessa Holloway-Trixon, Karen Kemp.
What he said.
Gary.
Gerald Doxter, Gary Doxter.
Step forward.
Okay, so I am
Go ahead.
Gerald Doxter. Live at 26875 Howard Road, and I do swear that any information is.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a seat.
Okay, thank you. First off, I want to make it clear to the commissioners, the community is very much together on this, and we don't have a strong objection to Minari's Dream, and I think that's been put forward by them that we are. What we're looking for is a community and a group of, an organization that occupies that to live to the same parameters that we have as a community. The critical area is important. We have to live to it. One of our associates that's here today has recently gone through some more hassles by, making sure that we have to comply to the critical area. And I think that's what we have to ask for from you folks' point of view, is make sure they have to do the same thing. I've been involved in this since this situation started, and the comments regarding the health department are very valid. It was very unclear as to where they were with their decision-making process. I went down and was told by the then person in charge of the health department that they were waiting for a final plan that would give the usage of the property and the sizes of the property and the anticipated use as to the numbers of people, because that's been the big variable. There was never a large number of people in the Legion, certainly in the last 15 to 20 years, but they wanted to know how many people were going to be on site so they could make sure that an appropriately sized septic system was put in. It's also a factor that that property, to the best of my knowledge, does not currently perk well, if at all. So whatever they put in is, and I think that's when it may end up being a very major issue, is A, it doesn't perk. Putting a septic system in, to the point you made, sir, is very expensive, and I think that's why it's being, avoided. What we're looking for from a community, as a community, is a full plan, when it's going to be installed, how it's going to roll out, total costs involved, would like to see, but it's not necessarily. But those are the parameters. We don't have a clear vision. We've heard there was an application for a separate entry. That is against Judge Murphy's decision. Putting cars in front of the facility was not part of the original plan. They blatantly misled the county on this last event they had. Because we were at a commissioners meeting, and that statement was made that all parking will be done off-site and people will be bussed in, period. What do we have? 75 to 85 cars parked in front of the facility. So the organization does not appear to have a structure that will allow them to run that organization fairly and adhere to the county's rules. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this application? Anyone on the list, Mark?
No, I thought that was just fine.
That's fine.
John?
All right, anyone else like to speak to it? If not, I'll let Miles and Mitch, you want to summarize or answer any of those questions. And
I don't think I have too much to say. I don't think there's too much that needs to be responded to. Obviously, several of the items were directly addressed when we first came up here and before some of those comments. And obviously, we have a plan. We have a master plan that shows where we would like to go with this project. There've been some discussion about wanting more detail about it, but I think it's pretty clear what it is that we'd like to do with the project. So I don't think anybody's trying to hide anything or avoid anything at this point. And again, I think much of what was said doesn't require a response.
okay, all right.
I think that this is a situation where there's going to be plenty of eyes in the sky looking at every step of this project. The project itself, the plans that have been submitted have been reviewed by staff. The determinations have been made as to the uses. Everything is either permitted or is currently approved. This is the site plan itself has its own term. If it isn't complied with within a year, I think that's still in the ordinance, that it's void. If it's not in the ordinance, put it as a condition. I mean, this is to say that we have to come back after the health department approves it, when the health department has to approve anything that's done, is just delaying things for the purpose of delay. You still have the same controls. The health department still has the same controls. And you know that if there is some work that's done that is not in compliance, it's going to be an enforcement issue because there are going to be some reports. That's just the nature of this. The applicant needs to have the approvals. The planning commission needs to have a satisfaction that the work is going to be in accordance with the site plan. And you have the health department, if the issue is the health department approval, that's covered. If the issue is the location of the greenhouse or the garage, that's going to be covered too, because there will have to be an amended site plan, or there will have to be a conditional a special exception or a variance. All those things will be covered. It's not, you're not signing off on something and letting it go, and it's going to be out there, and they're going to be able to do whatever they want. That's simply not the case. The health department's going to be involved, and they're going to be basically on probation, because they're going to have probation agents that live down the road that are going to be checking on everything that's done. It doesn't make sense to me to delay approval so that, to ensure that something is going to be done when we don't know what that's going to be. When you know that there will be a governing body who will be looking over the work once it's done. So we would ask for preliminary and final approval with those conditions.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it's up here for deliberation. They're asking for preliminary and final. We've heard comments on that. Like everyone's thoughts on where do we move forward?
My thoughts are that, in my opinion, they don't have enough here for preliminary even. We don't know, I mean, we're not putting a driveway into a house. We're talking about major earth moving out here, or disturbance at the very least. We see the bioretention areas. We don't know that the water will flow there. We have to get that from they got to get approvals for that. And I think they need to get those before we can even talk about the parking lot reconfiguration. And they want us to give them a final approval on a building we don't even know how big it is. 2 buildings, as a matter of fact, a greenhouse and a garage. I don't know how big they are.
Is the suggestion that we have to go get building permits,
Well,
we
the
get
other ones,
approved building permits for you to approve?
I think that you need to get a set of building plans, yeah. I mean, we just looked at a plan here for Gillespie's. They had a set of drawings and comments as far as giving preliminary approval that they needed stormwater management plans approved.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Well, I think our approval process has typically required that applicants show much more detailed information to enable us to really understand how the land is going to be used. And from my perspective, this takes the existing site plan adds considerable landscaping detail and the change in the parking lot, but not much else.
And and look, no one wants to see this project go away. I mean, I think it's a great project, but I can see where the health department, I mean, we've got a campground with overnight campers now. How many? Where's the facilities for those? Where do they use those? Those are things, that I think, you need to address. I think that the health department would want that addressed. If you're going to have, overnight stay, they've got to have some sort of accommodations. If they're going to use inside this existing building, how many people are going to use that in order for a septic system to work? I think it's a correct concept plan, in my opinion. It's a lot of questions out there. And to walk out of here with final approval, I think gives you a lot of leeway for doing a lot of things with maybe not having to address them, but I think they need to be addressed before we could give you a preliminary or final approval.
Anyone else? Paul, Sean, Jim?
Again, I understand your need for some direction, approval gives you guys direction to move forward. But in Bill's comments and him even speaking to the point of the possibility of appeals to his decision, are we maybe better off waiting to make a decision on this until that process goes through completely? Because if that happens, and his determination is overturned, preliminary approval, which clearly nobody sounds like they're ready to give you final, but would be kind of pointless. So perhaps we should wait till February to make a decision and table doing that. So I can put that in the form of a motion if anybody else feels the same.
I'm just curious what you feel about tabling. Can you get more information? I mean, you sent some general questions. I know you're not going to get it perfect. You're not going to get it, but the sense is that people admire the work that could be done here if it's done properly, but it is a sensitive area, not just environmentally, but in the neighbors, and that, it's more of a use than they've known for years. So, but I mean, can you get some, can we work hard to get something from the health department, or, tie up this camping thing? I mean, is there something you can do?
Well, can I make a suggestion that you grant preliminary and let us know what needs to be done in order to get final? Because we're hearing things from a lot of different directions. If it's a situation where there's an appeal of Bill's decision, then that's got to be done within 30 days. So if that, when we come back for final, there's an appeal that has been filed and hadn't been rendered, then, you continue to table that until that is final, until either 30 days is run or the decision has been made on that appeal. Because obviously if those decisions are overturned, then the final approval's out the window. But I think if we get the preliminary approval, we would want to know what you're asking for final. And I don't think it's fair to say that you have to have stormwater management, because stormwater management is a different agency that approves it, and it comes before you. The only thing you see on a recommendation is stormwater management has been approved. It's got to be approved, and that can be a condition of final. And it's the same thing, I mean, these are, the uses are permitted uses. It's the same, if someone wanted to put a labyrinth in their home, what would they do? They come in here and get an approval? No. I mean, it's something that they go to the planning commission, and planning commission says, yeah. This is, I think I know that there's pressure from the neighbors to delay that, this whole project. But it's not fair to cater to them and to say to an applicant who is proposing permitted uses, that you got to wait until you get all these other reports and approvals
Okay.
before you come back.
Well, first off, I don't know about any pressure about anything, but I don't know that. I mean, I heard the testimony about their concerns, as I've heard yours. I think our concerns is what our purview is up here. And I think it's obvious that as beautiful as these plans are, they're not, there's not enough info on a site plan. I mean, it's a master plan, and it's beautiful, but it's not a real site plan as we see it with some, and I think the traffic thing the entrance is a concern, how that's gonna be incorporated, my opinion.
Well, who makes that decision, though? It's not, if someone comes in with a application for, just to do an amendment to a parking lot, where does that go? It goes to staff, correct?
Yes. But
Okay, and staff hasn't said anything about that. Staff has recommended preliminary and final. I mean, you know, I'm not,
all right.
I mean, I think just sort of reiterating what Mitch is saying, I mean, we were here for concept. We received comments from you all for concept. We addressed everything that was discussed, and now we're back
Okay,
at the next
I'd asked a
phase,
simple
and
question about.
only makes
what
sense to at
would-
least
Could you do
provide
more in a month? That's what I'd
preliminary.
asked. That was all my question. I didn't see the same test. Does anyone else have anything they want to say? Sean, I don't know if, question, make a motion if you want. Jim, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Talking who?
Jim, I'd say-
Look at this. And, just like, I understand where you come from, but like Bill said, he said, you talking about a building. How big is the building? If you're gonna present a building, present the size, the square footage. We're gonna put this building in, it's gonna be, 24 wide, 60 feet long, something like. Put your figures down and express the point of what you really have or what you really want to do. Just like your parking lot. Put the amount of parking spaces you have, your handicap parking. Bring all that stuff in here, have it all laid out. Then we know where you're operating from. Right now, you're saying that you're gonna put this in, you're gonna put this in, but you don't have it laid out with, not that stuff. I'm talking about something that we can sit down and read, numbers. I can't now, I hate to say this, but I don't have my glasses on, but I can't now make out half of this stuff what you got on this paper.
Because you're not looking at a full-size print. I mean, these are 24 by 36 sheets.
Right, that's
that are
what I'm
submitted.
saying.
So I'm saying that's not on us to, that
I'm
you
not
don't
saying
have
it's
the
on
full-size
you.
set.
Okay.
I'm just saying that bring it in so that both of us, this group and you, we can determine that it's 90 feet, 24 feet. That's all we ask. I think that we could get further than what we're doing here today.
I mean, we do have the number of parking spaces and handicap spaces on here, and if all we're
Right.
talking about are some dimensions, it seems like we're, preliminary. If all we need are some dimensions and some detail for a final approval, that's acceptable, and that we would be getting a preliminary approval today. I mean, I totally understand that there's more detail that you all are looking for. I think, like Mitch said, we need to know what the level of detail is that you expect from us.
I think that some of those comments have been made here as far as sizing and things that my sense, but
I mean, I could literally tell you, we could scale these drawings, and I could give you, just because we don't have a dimension on it, it's all drawn to scale, but I don't think that's quite what you all are looking for at this moment, but.
And it would all be part of the building permit
Right.
application.
Well, I think, but we need to know what the buildings are gonna look like. We have in any other instance, we've wanted to know, when you come in here for a site plan, you come in here with a set of drawings of, I don't care if it's just a schematic drawing of what the buildings are gonna look like, how many stories are they, And it does make a difference with stormwater and sediment and erosion control. You could get this plan drawn up and not get it to work the way it looks here and come in with a completely different configuration. I mean, this is in the critical areas. A third of the property's in the buffer. Of course, you're not using a lot of it, but I personally wouldn't give this preliminary approval. It was in the middle of an industrial park. I don't think I have enough information. And I think if you had that information on it, it'd be a whole lot easier to do. And it could give you final and preliminary at the same time, but I don't see it here.
I also think that the question of phasing is one I'd like more detail on. Phasing.
Phasing, okay.
And I understand that's subject to getting funding, but what are your priorities? What goes in first? What goes in second? What is the time frame?
Well, we've tried to give some advice, but I guess if someone wanted to put that in form of a motion.
Well, again, at the risk of sounding like the newbie trying to catch up here a little bit, I still think probably the best thing, and I will put it in the form of a motion, is to table this for 1 month, to let the appeal process run, find out if there's any issues there, and hopefully get a little bit more of some of the details that have been asked for. So I would like to table this until the February meeting.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Any second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion?
I think we'd have to approve. I think the applicant has to approve a table.
There's nothing in the zoning ordinance that specifies that.
There's nothing in the zoning ordinance that says you can table.
It actually does. Yeah. If the planning commission determines that more information is required for a decision to be made on the proposal, the planning commission may table its consideration of the plan.
Okay, I think that it might be in Robert's rules, tabling is required, approval is required.
Well, it effectively would be a postponement till there's more information. That's probably not the best wording in the land use ordinance for that, but that's what it says.
I think, and without your approval, but the other motion is going to be no final. I think we've got that, and maybe no preliminary. I don't know. So I don't, you're better off with no decision, get further information. We've asked, you've heard all the comments, whether you agree or not, but I think we're not comfortable moving on, at least to final anyway.
But we're not comfortable without preliminary,
Okay,
with
we're up
telling
here,
us-
I shouldn't be.
telling us that, these are the things that we need to have for final.
Okay.
We relied on the comments we got at concept. And now we're getting a lot of other issues. And I think we need to have some assurance that if we covered the issues that you identify, that we're going to get final. And the only way I know that that can happen is if we get preliminary and that told what needs to be done for final.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion in further up here? If not, I'll call the question. Yes or no for tabling. Bill Crowding?
Yes.
Paula Reeder?
Yes.
Paul Ruge?
Yes.
Sean Jones?
Yes.
Jim Saunders?
I have one question before we go there.
Well,
Before I make my vote.
first you have the motion and the vote.
I'm saying nay.
Nay. And I'll vote with the affirmative. We have 5 yeas and 1 nay. And so we'll table it till next month. And I hope you heard the comments. I don't know, we didn't outline them, but I think you heard them pretty well, what we need to do. Before we, I mean, you wait till the staff, we'll wait till.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next item is, we need to make a recommendation to the county commissioners of final planning commission, final version of the land use ordinance dated today, January 4th, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we send the Planning Commission final version of the land use ordinance dated January 4th, 2024 to the county commissioners for their consideration and scheduling of public hearings.
Thank you. I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Jim Saunders? Sean Jones?
Yes.
Paul Ruge? Paul Reeder? Bill Crowdy? Aye. And I'll vote with the affirmative. So we'll send the plan. Thank you, Bill, for all the work that you did on this.
Oh, I saved this from the last meeting and a half.
So,
Discussion.
Um,
For over 2 years.
staff reports. Carla?
Yeah, so there's no designation.
Mark, you have anything?
New campground.
Bill?
Yeah, I did want to say something. This is not regarding Minari's Dream Alliance, but some topics came up during that discussion that I wanted to just generally touch on. So our zoning code currently requires that a title block be included on site plans for signature by the health department. So I'm assuming that that means it's a requirement for us to have a site plan be finished. And I'm certainly planning to send Erica a copy of the determination and just sort of have some discussions with the health department about exactly what did their opinion on this matter mean, right? Because I'm concerned that if they're no longer going to sign off on any site plan, that our process, there'll be some questions about that, so.
Screws things up. So that messes things up.
So I don't want to say what it does, because I would want to get legal advice on sort of where we are in that position. But I also want to just clarify if, really what is the health plan's plan going forward, as opposed to relying on sort of a third-hand email saying this and that. But I just want to let you know, that's a requirement currently, is their signature. So I want to make sure we sort of address that and follow up with that. And I wanted to say that I think that you are well within your rights to require all approvals before final. I mean, I think the code is clear on that. You may certainly make conditions and, allow people to say, hey, we approve it with you doing these things, but I believe you are within your rights to say, we're not going to approve it unless you have, met all of the requirements of the code. So I just wanted to clarify those things. And the third thing I wanted to clarify was, staff reviews and makes recommendations. Our role is to assist you. We are your staff. State law gives you the duty of approval of these documents. So you are the approving body. We are the advisors, helpers, organizers, of things, facilitators for you. But really, we don't make the approval. So I just want to make that clear. And just as a footnote, state law is completely clear about this on plat documents, subdivisions, et cetera. State law is less clear about site plans, but I believe from my discussions with the Maryland Department of Planning over the last 15 years on this matter, that I think everyone believes that through that process, you are indeed, just like subdivisions, the absolute approving authority. And appeals are from your decision to district court, not the Board of Appeals. So I just want to say you're well within your rights to do the things you have requested, so, in my opinion. Circuit Court, sorry, Circuit Court. Yes, sir.
It's gotten tough with the health department. I know they've got staff problems and all that, but.
They are down 4 out of 5 people, that's hard.
It's not fair to these people to wait 3 and 4 months for a response from a guy that comes up here 1 day a week for 6 hours, you know, it's tough on them. I know you've run into it.
Right. I mean, it's,
I
even
know
though it's
these
called, yeah, sorry.
Site plans, it's tough with, you can't get any answer from them.
Right. I mean, I think that's why, you know, MD is involved. I mean, essentially, the health department is a state agency that the county helps fund, but we don't have jurisdiction over their decisions. So I think that's why MD is assisting, but you're right, it has been a difficult time period. I've heard many, many applicants repeat very similar statements as you're saying now, Bill. So, and we want to work with the health department to assist them in, you know, being able to move forward. I understand they have some new hires, which is exciting. They're being trained, so hopefully we'll move past this stage quickly, but thank you.
Bill, how often do you guys have to deal with a plan that is called phasing, where there's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and what in the past has been required?
So I can't answer that for this jurisdiction because I don't believe I've been here for a phased plan. I've certainly been in other jurisdictions with phased plans, and oftentimes they include a chart that says phase 1, 2024, phase 2, 2025, phase 3, or some other, I mean, but that is often what a phased plan looks like in my experience in other jurisdictions. I don't know if Carla can talk about our phased plans here. Our phased plans.
Well, I mean, we did one relatively recently with Gillespie, where
Oh, well,
they
right, yeah.
received preliminary approval for the entire thing, and then only got final approval for one phase of it, and then they came back and got for a second.
After they had submitted
two parts,
additional.
So they've done it, so we've done it in the past where you can get preliminary approval to a certain point, and then you only get final approval for whatever you're moving forward with immediately. And then the next time you're ready to do something, then you come back and get final approval for the next piece.
And what has the approach of planning and zoning been relative to determination of septic capacity and adequacy? Where does that fit into the process?
Planning and zoning would not be involved with that. We rely entirely on the health department. And I feel in reading some of the emails between Brennan and Miles that where there's a disconnect between a master plan and a site plan. And that while we're sort of seeing it as the same thing, I don't think they are. And that's why I think we've got some discussion with them as to that they won't sign master plans, but they've always signed site plans. It's never been an issue. So we just haven't had an opportunity to sit down with them and have that discussion, because that all came out, you know, right before the holidays, and then I was on vacation, Bill was on vacation, we're all just kind of getting back and figuring things out.
I'd just like to make a couple comments on the phasing plans. Anything I've been involved in a past life, different area, but the phasing plans that I've seen are kind of like Bill mentioned. You have 100% of the project, and maybe that project's built in separate phases, but what we're approving, or what we're looking at, is 100% of the project, because the health department is going to have to look at 100% of the project. Just like it's 100% of this project. You're going to have X amount of people there on, it's one thing I didn't ask them, which I probably should have, but what is going to be the total number of people at total build-out? Because that's what the health department's going to need to know, because if it makes for a larger septic system or something like that, we've got to put it on a site plan. It's got to be there in the beginning. You're not going to add it as the steps go. So yes, the phasing can be put in there, you know, we'll do 3 things this year, another 2 things next year, another 3 things the following year, but 3, 2, and 3, that's 8. All 8 things have to be addressed in that site plan as we go forward. And then they can phase it however the heck they want it. But we need to be looking at the whole project end result, because that's what I think we're here to approve and look at. If you're gonna have them come back every year on a different, to get another final approval, on a part of their site plan, things change. You can't do that. You've got to have that overall, we have to have the overall plan right from the beginning. It says master plan, but it should be site plan. I 100% agree with that. A master plan, that's fine. That's a nice master plan. Now, tell me what you're gonna do, and how many people are gonna be there, cars, parking. They got parking, I can pick that apart. How many people here drive a pickup truck? Could you fit your pickup truck in that parking area and not hit another car when you did it? Especially if you drive a Ford. But I come from the automobile business. Those things don't turn, trust me. And they would not fit in that parking. I mean, there are things that need to be looked at, dimensions that need to be done. What is their total amount of people? There's 70 or 80 parking spots here. Okay, times 4, if you brought in 4 people to a car, that's what, 320 people. Do we have septic for 320? Where are they going to stay? How long are they going to be there? And how many times a year?
I think we should probably keep this a general discussion about any application.
Yeah, Rob, I'm using that as an example. I won't do any more on that. But as far as the project goes, I think we need to see 100% of the project, and they can phase it however they want. That's the way I would look at it.
Would it be appropriate for you to have further discussion with them about that?
Probably will.
Probably will have, trust me,
I
we'll
think
have
big thing to me-
Before next February, before
Yes.
next meeting.
I imagine we will have several discussions after this meeting.
Maybe in your office now.
Waiting for you.
One of the big things I have is that, what is the total, how often, what is the total usage going to be?
And I know the health department will work on that, so.
I think you know where I'm going with that, or what I'm looking for. But what is it? Because that determines the site plan. And that would be if it's a major subdivision, you put in 300 houses, first phase is going to be 50 houses, okay, fine. But we need to approve all 300 when we're looking at it. We're not going to approve 50 and then 50 over here and 50 there.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Any more?
I do want to just say thank you to this body and your predecessors and the task force members for an incredible journey. I mean, you all put in a lot of time, 3 years of meetings, and in the beginning it was every 2 weeks. I mean, we had a lot of meetings. Thank you very much. It really, I think what we came away with was, the advice of national consultants, legal advice, and a really lengthy, and sometimes this room was packed with 100 people, series of public inputs that, allows the code to be truly updated. So thank you all. You led the charge, and I appreciate that. It's been an exciting process.
Can I make one request? If and when the plan ever gets passed by the commissioners, can we get a paper copy, or do we have to?
You can get a paper copy, whatever you want, Paul.
I like
Our
paper
printer
copy.
works.
I can't, I work in front of a computer all day. I don't want to sit and watch that. I'd like to have a nice,
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
But if he prints it out on both sides, 2 pages on a page, be sure to get a magnifying glass.
well, we just ask them a larger print. They can blow that up before they print it.
Before Cindy leaves us physically here, call. Do you have anything to say? Thank you for your help today.
No comments, yeah.
I have one opportunity for the group and anyone who's interested. As you may be aware, the college is looking at providing an innovation hub space associated with the college. And for anyone who is interested, they are taking people who sign up on a bus tour to similar Eastern Shore maker spaces in Cambridge and Salisbury on the 16th of January. They're leaving from the college at 8:30 in the morning and heading back to Washington College from Salisbury around 4 o'clock. It's an opportunity to go see how different areas on the Eastern Shore are promoting and making opportunities for business innovation. And it could be an enlightening experience to go. So if any of you would like to go on tour, let me know, and I'll make sure you get a copy of the email from the college that would enable you to sign up and go.
Shoot, wish I knew that, or I just set up an inspection, I can't go.
Anything else? Bill's got one more thing maybe.
I just wanted to say welcome to
Oh, yeah.
Sean Jones, and don't know if everybody knows, Sean also serves on the Agriculture Advisory Commission, and all those, that big packet of information from AZD and RCD that you all received about the animal husbandry uses and all that, Sean was a major player in that document and decision, so welcome, Sean.
There were the one sections I could just skim through as I was looking through all 345 pages of the land use ordinance.
Well, good for you for reading the whole thing.
I was supposed to vote, not that I didn't do anything. I got thanks for saying yay today one time. That's pretty easy for me.
He's a farmer, they don't do anything in the winter.
No, that's not correct. I have cattle. They need care every day. They don't care.
Well, if we're all finished, maybe I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make that motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much.
What kind of deal?
Dairy.
Dairy, is it dairy? No, I come from what you would call upstate New York. It's very much like here, small town, we have dairy, Angus, that kind of deal. Plus a lot of apple orchards. Just curious.